Good morning, my name is AJ and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, AJ.
I have experience with our steps as they're laid out in our book with the help of a sponsor who's done the same. I have completed my direct amends as laid out in step 9, and I do incorporate all of those amends and all of these 12 steps into my daily life. I found that my willingness has absolutely everything to do with the deterioration of my happiness. So as you'll learn, as I hope to share for just a short period of time, that when I abandoned my self-will, which drives my willingness, my life got better. So for those of you who are new to this meeting format, this type of format is another AA meeting. And the person who's speaking right now is going to tell you what his experience is with this step and this format of step work. And it's specifically that I'm the person who needs to go through my house and collect every single piece of paper. Then, when I'm sure that I have every single piece of paper collected, then I have to alphabetize it 3 or 4 times to make sure that it is alphabetized according to the proper order of the 26 letters in our alphabet. Then I need to separate those papers according to the things that I can throw away, the things that are, financial in nature and need to be saved, and the things that, maybe I'm saving as a keepsake, or something like that. This works for me because I have another outside issue that some people call OCD. But the truth is, there's a lot of people in this room that don't have that issue, that are beaming with joy and self-satisfaction because they did these steps. This is the accessible way that worked for me. So I came to Alcoholics Anonymous soon after, actually just before Thanksgiving of 2010, and I learned at my very, very, very first meeting that I knew what I was supposed to be doing. So many of us are sitting here thinking, as people have maybe this week made suggestions to us about what we should be doing. We're very confidently answering those people with, I know. The 12 steps taught me about, I will. I'm going to do that. That's a great idea. I'm going to try that. Oh. Wait, you do that? Wait, can you explain exactly what steps you take to do that? Because I don't think that's humanly possible. That's what the 12 steps opened me up to. And the reason why they opened me up is the first 3 steps scratch the surface of a cold, icy, stubborn, selfish, self-centered egomaniac. I knew and I could do, and you just needed to get out of my way. In Alcoholics Anonymous, however, I learned that I'm powerless, that under my own false power, my false sense of power, my life had become unmanageable. So I had made a mess of me. I didn't like that. I also learned that there was a power greater than myself that could help me if I asked and allowed the power to help. So then, in step 3, I did that. Steps 2 and 3 were very, very difficult for me because I was raised upstairs. I grew up in this room, but I was raised upstairs. To the point where I'm now paid to show up upstairs. God gave me a gift that I'm able to share with the congregation in this and many churches. But one skill that God gave me that I was not employing when I was upstairs was the use of these ears and the connection that they have to the brain that our book says I'm supposed to use. So that's going to annoy me, so I'm going to stop using it. Can everyone hear me?
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool. So I turn my will and my lives over to the care of God as I understood him. I very emphatically say the word lives because while the window shade is meaning to explain the experience of the large group of alcoholics that had formed in many living rooms and kitchens around Ohio in the time of the late 1930s, this alcoholic had a work life, an after-work life, an evening life, a Saturday morning life, a Saturday night life, a holla back life. I had them all. I had them all. So I had to turn everything about me over to God because that was the self-will that was making my life unmanageable. And the promise that I still hold on to of step 3 is on page 62, and there's a whole list. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, if I'm counting correctly. There are 8 promises of step 3. If you don't know them, they're in the first paragraph of 63. The one that I needed in my life, the one that I was desperate for, was the interest in what I could contribute to other people's lives. I had been, as many of my friends in Alcoholics Anonymous refer to, I had been vampiring self-esteem out of other human beings for 34 years. When I learned that I was doing that, I was physically, mentally, and spiritually nauseated. I did not want to continue that behavior because I thought, the sick heart that I had thought that I was lifting you up, encouraging you, helping you develop. I had no idea. So I remember saying to my sponsor, what am I doing that's causing this horrible life that I've been living? And he said, you'll figure that out in step 4. And I thought, great. I've got to wait. We've got to read these 6 readings and blah, blah, blah. But that's how I felt at the beginning. But then when I got here, I was so excited. I was so excited. Because I had looked up the word in the dictionary, as I'm supposed to, because I learned that following the instructions of my sponsor will, up to this point in my sobriety, will lead me to joy. Takes me through some dark alleys. Makes me do things that cause me to get my hands dirty. Don't like that. But it brings me out to joy, which is really awesome for me. So I had looked up the word resentment, and I found what another friend of mine sitting in this room often talks about, this concept of indignant displeasure. Well, I knew what the word indignant meant, even though I checked myself. I knew what displeasure was. I didn't have to look that one up. It was every concept, everything in my life, displeasing. So as the ladies here in the front row read the instructions from our book, I had to make a list. Who causes me indignant displeasure? 4 people. Proudly, I returned to my sponsor. I was like, I'm ready. I got my list. He was like, oh no, honey. No. What definition are you using? And I called up Merriam-Webster. I was like, there's an app for that. Called up Merriam-Webster, and I showed it to him, and he said, no. He flipped to the back of his big book, where taped in is the Little Big Book Dictionary, which I thought was the smartest, ingenious thing ever. I rebuilt my big book soon after that. And he taught me this far more accessible definition of resentment. And I have it written on the back page of my book. Persistent feeling of ill will and suspicion, anger, caused by a sense of injustice, insult, injury, offense, or wrongdoing. And then he added in his own take on it. To resent basically means to feel again strongly or to relive again. I told him he had to stop talking as soon as he finished that opinion because I started adding more names. We got to about 50. The sense that I was going to get something good out of it really started to build at that point. So the network of sponsorship that I come from uses a similar list to what is on page, where is it? Somewhere. 65. But my sponsor asked me to note exactly how the effects impacted me. So he said, I'd like you to show me a person who has affected your pride, self-esteem, security, ambition, or relations, someone that you resent that hasn't affected your pride, self-esteem, security, ambition, and relations. He said, and if you can convince me, we'll mark it not applicable. And I was like, okay. I didn't find one. Because truthfully, if you're not doing what I want, you're basically committing some type of passive homicide on me. Why are they laughing?
I have no idea. I'm not.
I put her on the spot so she got a little nervous. So, for me, the pride, what are you going to think of me when they don't do what I want? Self-esteem, what am I thinking of me when you don't do what I want? The security, what's going to happen to me if you don't do what I want? Ambition, what am I wanting to do, thinking about doing, or planning to do, or planning to have someone else to do to you because you're not doing what I want? I'm Italian. And then the thing that really was a nasty gut punch for me was the relationship. The most important part of that I was told was, do you or do you not have a relationship with this person? That was horrifying. Most of my biological family, the answer to that question was no. It set me up for a challenge because a couple of the people I wanted to have relationships with, because I thought I did. And the after effect is that I built relationships with these people. The good part of the sandwich is in the turnarounds, though, for me. So, on page 67, it says, referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs other people have done. So I had written, I need a grammar check on my speaking. I had written a number of names, and I had written what you all had done to me, and I wrote down how terrible you were. That was what the first part of my page meant to me. You were somehow scarring my reputation, my livelihood, damaging my future, whatever it might be. And it was all your fault. I was just a nice guy. I was just trying to help you. You were a stranger at a bar who was arguing with your wife, so I just interrupted you and explained how you could improve your relationship. That's not an exaggeration. I can tell you the last bar I did that in. They thought I was fabulous. I gave them my number. I told them what my fees were. A real career as a life coach was born in a conversation just like that. Horrifying. Why I'm not dead. Why I was not strangled to death in a public space. I do not know. I do not know. Where did I learn that joy? Where did I find that gratitude? In this part here now. We resolutely, with total resolve. So this for me brings back the surrender that was required of steps 1, 2, and 3. We resolutely look for our own mistakes. So sometimes we hear in meetings a number of our fellows talk about, well, I have to look at my part. For me, my part is this mistake. I inserted myself in the lives of strangers for no other reason than I was bored. My friends weren't entertaining. Grey Goose wasn't dancing fast enough. Let's get a buzz off this couple that obviously are sitting here having an expensive dinner because they hate each other. I'll take joy in that. That was what I did. I look back and I realize how despicable I was. So what are my mistakes? How do I know what my mistakes are? Well, I look at the answers to these questions. Where had I been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, or frightened? I was really afraid of physical abuse in any type. I was not afraid of anyone's words, anyone's. I was the tallest and fattest kid from the moment I could breathe. No one could say anything to me that could really hurt my feelings. In junior high school, I actually had to learn how to look sad to stop a bully. Because when we went to the school principal after being referred to by a classmate who was really upset on my behalf, the bully said to the principal, "He laughs at all of my jokes. Why is this a problem?" Self-coping 101. We all know about that. The paragraph continues to read, though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. So in my conversations with my sponsor, as I look at these experiences, I need to look at, what if I wasn't there? What if I hadn't inserted myself? What if I had sought out the pleasure of life from someone else? And I remember having this conversation with him, and he said to me, what if you had been pursuing God and seeking the strength from God to take care of this situation that you were in on your own? And that was additionally quite troubling for me, because at that time in my life, I did nothing for myself. And particularly most of the professional resentments that I have in my notebook was at a time where I had 6 assistants, chauffeurs, multiple offices, and I didn't even have to worry about my dry cleaning because I had that delivered. I was just living in such a state of delirium that I really had a hard time finding the truth. But God sent me a truth finder. We call him the sponsor. So, where had I been selfish? Well, I wanted them to live my life for me. I wanted them to do all of the hard work. But I learned in this part that I was entirely dishonest in that request. Because I wanted you to come and clean my house, but I didn't tell you that I wanted it cleaner than the level 10 trauma room at NYU Hospital, where they were saving lives of people that weren't even humans. That I wanted the toilet to be so clean that it spoke about how clean it was. But I never told anyone. I would just say, "Oh, could you help me with a little thing? Oh, could you help me tidy up?" But I wanted you to prepare my home for surgery. Never, ever did I clearly articulate what I needed. Never. For example, one of the intimate relationships that I today have, it was with a woman who, at that time was my biological mother, who I could not stand. I would proudly sit next to her upstairs in the second pew on the left at the cross aisle and sing my heart out, showing her how great I was. But I would plot her death while the priest was offering the homily. All because I had never asked her to give me the opportunity to finish my story. Because my mom is a brilliant woman. She has multiple master's degrees. And the truth is, if I had asked her to listen, she was a listener. So she would have heard me, and she would have let me finish my story so that I could get the emotion out. And then her suggestion, which was always spot on, would have been able to have been heard by me. So it wasn't that she was an egotistical you-know-what. It was that there was a mistake I was making. I was going to my mother. I was sharing the story with my mother. But I was never saying, "Mom, let me finish. There are important details that I haven't spoken yet." I'm saying that to you today because I now practice that behavior. And she's the calmest, most cool cucumber ever. She will listen to the whole story. Sometimes at the end of the story, she'll say, "Wait, did you say this? Yeah? Oh." And then she gives the same damn advice she gave me when I was 10. But now because I'm able to let go of some of the emotion in telling the story a couple of times. I don't gossip about people anymore, thank God. I'll go to my mom, maybe talk to my sponsor, like my mom helped me a huge help a couple of years ago. I think it's a year and a half ago maybe, with, relationship situation. My dad passed away about 11, 12 years ago. They were married 34 years. I was in a 2.5-year relationship. I was miserable. I called the woman I once plotted her death, hated her, couldn't stand her. At one Christmas morning, told my father that I would respect that woman because she was his wife. Less than 2 years ago, I called her and asked her for advice on a relationship decision, and I followed her advice. The smartest decision I've ever borrowed from another human being. Because I asked her to listen. My mistake. I asked her to listen. So you also may have noticed while I've been jabbering along here that a couple of sentences, or maybe a dozen sentences, I've slammed the rewind button back and told you a lesser, more detailed time frame, something like that. Where did I learn that? In this work. It came out in the dishonest section of these turnarounds. I'm an exaggerator. I want you to feel bad about my situation. I want you to have pity on me. So I'm going to tell you that it was almost 15 years ago that he passed away. Not 11 years and 2 months. Because 15 years is a longer time, right? Right? It's even more dramatic. 15, it takes more oxygen. Right? Think about it. Say 15. You're more tired than saying 11. And 2 years ago, all these, it's wild. It's wild. I go to the more dramatic story immediately in my head. So God inserted a rewind button in my storyteller. And he hits it. I'm like, wait. I was 11. Not a little under 20. Okay. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Self-seeking. I didn't even know what that was. Did not know what it was. I was taught, though. Because I am blessed by other alcoholics, not just the 3 or 4 sponsors that I've had, but close friends today. I'll be telling a story, and they will fire out these words. Dishonest. Self-seeking. Self-seeking again. And I'm like, you're kidding me. But they're not kidding me. They're not kidding me. You know what they're doing? I've learned. They're loving me. They're loving me. Afraid. Again, I was only afraid of bodily harm. In my college years, I weighed about 600 pounds. I was afraid you were going to hit me and I was going to fall down, and I wouldn't be able to roll away fast enough for you to get me the second time. Because I knew sure as shit I would never stand up afterward. Not without rolling over, and maybe having, Clean Harbors come and help me. I was a big guy. But I learned how sharp and how dangerous a sword the tongue can be. I learned through looking at this work and understanding that when in fear, I lie. When I'm really in fear, I really lie. When I'm scared, I tell an entirely fabricated story. Entirely fabricated story. I got a job based on a story of a job offer that I was dreaming of. But if you just tell it like it happened the other day, I failed at that job because the only thing I ever thought about was what was going to happen when they found out. So what's my story today? What's my story today? So my story today is based in reality. A place I didn't know, a place that I regularly have to use GPS to get to. GPS. And there's a number of acronyms that Alcoholics Anonymous has developed using GPS since these Smarter Than Us phones came out. But, my way is, I call God's people and I get seeking again. I call God's people, thank you. I call God's people and I get seeking again. Doesn't really rhyme that well, but it's what works for me. So they point out my mistakes, and I usually open the phone calls with, I need some help. A friend of mine called me last Monday or Tuesday just to say hi. She loves me. She wants to know I'm okay. That particular moment, I just hung up on a conference call with a person who had told me that while they knew they were 150% wrong, that there were just a few things that I could change about me in order to make their lives easier. Entirely unrelated things, too. So I went from annoyed to furious. Why do I tell you this story? Because I no longer have to use self-seeking behaviors in this situation. I can use every four-letter word that I know and every character assassinating phrase that I know while I'm unloading the emotion in the second phone call. But on the first phone call, I can say, thank you for that information. I'm sure that next year when we follow the project plan and those items are delivered on time, the 3 weeks that we scheduled for me to complete the work that you're referring to will be completed with a greater level of accuracy. And then and because of the fact that I practiced that patient, a colleague said, truthfully, and she was mad. She was mad, but she's the one, she's in the bad cop role. I'm a good cop on this team. She says, given the fact that you gave AJ 1 day to complete this work, I'm damn impressed. And I said, well, maybe we should end this call today. Thanks everyone for your work. And I hung up and ended the call because there was going to be a fight. And I've ceased fighting anyone and everything. So when I'm the host of the party where the fight's going on, the party stops. The party stops. Because for me, that's not bringing God into life. It is not bringing God into life. So, what does this work do for me? This work has done for me a lot of things. But I'll tell you this two that are really, really, really important. First is that I'm not perfect. One through three showed me that I needed help. I had this really sickening feeling that I would never learn what I needed help with. This part of our step work showed me what I needed help with. This is the list of activities that I need God to insert himself into in my life. These are the areas of improvement. And they're manifested in these contacts and encounters that I have with other human beings. God, I need help with patience because these 40-something people drive me to impatience. Give me the ability to be patient with them. And then the other part, and I could go on for days on those details, but I think that's the most important for today. And then the other part is that I was given a voice that I need to use to spread the truth around the world. The voice that I have is not to advance me through the world. My voice, as I've learned in doing this work, is to spread the truth. And that needs to begin with, can we meet at 6, like really at 6, not your usual 6:15? And when that doesn't work, being honest and saying, at the next time we have a date for dinner, hey, let's meet at 5:30, even though I make the reservation for 6, because I want to eat at 6. And then when they get there, say, oh, the reservation's at 6. And my close friends say, you knew I'd be late. Well, yeah, I just made time for you. Instead of sticking with that 6 o'clock time and not eating dinner because I'm so mad that they were being themselves. Ask for what I want from people that I'm willing to allow to be themselves. Not give some cryptic story to someone who I want to first change entirely who they are before they become a puppet in my grand scheme of things. When I've let go of the puppet strings that you didn't know were attached, I found a peacefulness in living. And it's because of this part of this step. I learned that because I'm not perfect, I make mistakes. And some of the mistakes that I made, I consistently and continually made with every breath. Because I've mostly quit that, I have really strong relationships today. I actually have relationships with people. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. So for those of you who are working on this part, I don't think I have to say anything to the people that have already written, and done this work, other than continue it. But for those of you who are maybe new to this meeting or in this writing right now, please move forward knowing 3 things. First, you already know the story. Write it down so that you can set it aside and see the real point. Second, if you're afraid to share what you've written in your notebook with your sponsor, test your sponsor or find a new one. And the third is, this work is meant to make us free. It's not so that we can find freedom. It is meant to make us free. So if you want to be free, do it. Thank you.